Thank you. Thank you very much. So today is Friday and we can start the MSI demo meeting. And today we have quite a big agenda to share with you. And taking into account that we already spent some time switching the room, so don't waste any more time and let's proceed with. Let's follow the agenda and proceed with updates. I shared several minutes ago in the MSI Slack channel. So let me share the screen. And let me describe you pretty interesting issue. Stepan Furman started to work on this issue, and it's not yet finished. So Stepan going to finish the pull request and create the pull request to Magento. Actually, not to MSI because this is not really a MSI issue, but MSI makes this issue happen. And the issue is reproducible the next way, so merchants can't actually make the database backup and after that restore the database via that backup. Because, actually, if you see step to reproduce and the actual result, so there are MySQL errors happening at the time of the when the guy is trying to restore the database from backup. And the main reason for that currently Magento backup and Magento restore system actually does not differentiate anyhow base tables out of MySQL views. And taking into account that before MSI in Magento we did not utilize MySQL view in any way, the backup and restore actually worked as expected. So we just proceed with like show tables in the scope of this backup operation, getting all this bulk of tables, and for each particular tables we made the data extraction and the schema extraction and the data extraction afterwards. And after that, so we stored that to file, and after that we restored that. But taking into account that in the scope of Magento MSI we introduce MySQL view, and in our case, so MySQL view, like the root of all evils currently in MSI, this is MySQL view. And the good news that it will gone as soon as we will provide support for bundle product, and we will no longer need to make this synchronization between the previous implementation of MSI and the new one. So that till we have it now, we have this MySQL view for default stock. So default stock currently represented as a join between catalog product entity table and catalog product entity and the stock and the source table. That's why we like when the default mechanism of making backup goes to this view, actually it treats it exactly the same as it is regular MySQL table, and then it tries to lock this table and try to disable keys. And actually this doesn't work on the MySQL view, and that's why we are getting this error. So what Stepan currently working on? So he is making the fix for Magento 2.3, and hopefully this fix will be delivered to 2.3.1 partially. So this fix will extend the possibilities of Magento backup and restore utilities, and will provide them possibility to handle view. Because in the case of view, we no need to store the data. We just need to store the schema of view, so the representation of this view. Because in MySQL there is no materialized view. all the views supported by MySQL are virtual view, which are represented by particular SQL join query. So this is pretty interesting because we stuck with that the first time, and not even the MSI is the root cause for this issue. So probably other extension developers stuck with this issue earlier, who introduced MySQL view in their implementation. So pretty interesting issue to face with. So now let's proceed to another update. So I hope that Stepan will join us next week, and he will provide an update. He will make the particular demo how he's backing up his database and how he's restoring the database from the backup. So now let's proceed to our agenda. Let me check whether Josh Carter is on the call, because he just pinged me that he's late a little bit. Josh, are you on the call? I don't see Josh among the participants of this meeting, so let's postpone Josh for later. I hope he will join us along the way. And now proceed to the number 3 in our agenda. And number 3 is Max Pronko with his localization update and the search by zip codes. Max, are you on the call?
Yes, hello guys, friends, MSI participants. So yeah, last week I joined this demo, and I have something to show or to talk about. And first thing I would like to talk about is localization of CSV files. Let me find out how to share the screen. Am I sharing the screen, Igor? Can you confirm?
No.
No.
And you also did not switch your camera. So
camera, it's for the next meeting.
Okay.
Probably this one. Okay. Do you see it?
Yep, we see.
Yes. Okay, good. So first issue I delivered as part of MSI project was localization files. It's basically a list of CSV files or enus.csv files for each module where we have any text, English text available. So as a result, there were, as far as I remember, let me have a look, 25. I wrote it. 1 second. As far as I remember, 26 files. 26 new files were created for modules, MSI-related modules, out of 40 modules, because not all modules are having text, and not all modules will have this enus translation files. That's why only 26 out of 40 or 41 MSI modules are updated. As part of this task, I thought that I didn't have a tool, I would say, to go through these modules, MSI modules, and find these phrases. This is why I built a simple bash script, and I'm going to share with all of you guys. Maybe it would be handy for your work. Basically, what it does, it goes, you specify a pattern, like in my case, it was inventory pattern or like module name pattern. And based on inventory module name, I collected all modules, and in these modules I created, the script created new directory called i18n and collected all phrases with bin Magento i18n collect phrases command, created file, and placed all these phrases into a file. So basically it's a simple one-line command which goes through all modules and collects files and creates it. So all these files we can use it like for all Magento 2 modules. and simply update modules. It even can be automated. So this is the first task, it's CSV files, and second one I would say started working on this is an issue called provide MySQL queries. However, as part of this task, I'm going to create an API which will allow to search, calculate, search, and provide back via API a list of nearby zip codes or its addresses based on a zip code provided in a search field. This is going to be part of store pickup functionality. And yeah, so checkout functionality, and as you can see in a previous demo, we've seen how this functionality kind of work in progress, and I'm going to join this functionality and implement API, which will allow to retrieve list of nearby addresses. So this is work in progress, and I'm going to show you some code in the next demo. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. The last service which you mentioned is especially interesting for our store pickup functionality, because it's probably like the interesting part how we will find all the nearby zip code addresses. So keep us posted about this update, and if you need any technical assistance or just emotional assistance, just let me know. So,
okay, thank you. Thank you.
So let's proceed further in our demo meeting scope. So the next item is 3.1. I didn't want to make the totally independent item, so just a small item for discussion. Let me share my screen first. So this is item devoted to the product SKU mutability. And it is pretty interesting because we already spent some time to discuss this issue several months ago. And that time, we agreed that probably from the product perspective, there is no any reason to modify the product SKU. And currently that the SKU is modifiable in Magento admin panel, for example. We can consider this is just a small gap, and and ideally the SKU should not be modified during the life cycle of the product. We even brought that question to the architectural council several months ago, and the decision was that on a day-to-day, on a day-to-day operation, there is no sense to modify SKU, but probably there is a sense to modify SKU for products if some measure shift or measure adjustment occurred. For example, if company follows some pattern using the SKU, and after that this pattern has been changed, so we have to change all these SKUs or maybe SKUs for particular products. And for this particular purposes, we should not use our domain services, but rather some tooling. And using these tools, we can proceed with update the SKUs, and these tools supposed to guarantee that we don't break the data consistency, because we have too many relationships on the SKU, especially if the Magento is not the source of truth, but if the Magento is connected to the external system like ERP, so this connection is linked to just by the product SKU, because the external system knows nothing about the product ID in this case. So it was a pretty long discussion, but now we're getting more and more questions about that, and one of that was raised recently. And this question was raised by Michael. So you can join the discussion in the issue 2001. So actually, Michael here describes the necessity of SKU changes, and we have quite a long thread of discussion here regarding whether product SKU should be mutable or should be immutable. Also, yesterday we had another pretty long thread, this time in Slack channel, and this long thread currently has more than, let me find it. So this long thread currently is pretty long, more than 60 replies already. And here it's discussed, like the first issue brought by Joshua was that why in Magento database schema the SKU field could be nullable. And actually the answer to this question is that SKU could be nullable, and we use this for our product duplication functionality. So when you duplicate the product, so when you create the new product based on another product, what we actually do, we create product copying all the data from the previous one, except for the SKU, and we provide the ability to merchant to fill the SKU data on the next step via the admin panel. But what it actually means that on the database level, we create the record for this newly created product, but there is no guarantee that that merchant will finish filling out this form, and he will provide the new SKU. So potentially the data could be in inconsistent way. So what Joshua proposed, he proposed to specify the new SKU at the time of the product duplication, which will definitely affect the UI experience and the user experience, how they work with Magento. So another idea from my side was not to affect existing look and feel and user experience. So just introduce another service which creates the product based on existing product. And here is actually also pretty long thread here, and also in this thread we also started to discuss the question whether product should be mutable or immutable. And Ben told us that he has own experience, and the company where Ben is working actually provide the alternative admin panel for Magento. And through this admin panel, a lot of their merchants actually update their SKU, and this is especially true for fashion industry. So Ben committed to make the short poll short survey between merchants. He's working on just to gather all the reasons why merchant actually update SKU. So if you have 2 cents to add to this conversation, to this one or to the one we have in the GitHub thread, don't hesitate to join us, because currently, because this is actually the cornerstone topic for MSI, because in MSI we consider it like a totally isolated service, and now that's why actually we don't have any dependencies on a product ID from Magento. We don't have any foreign key on Magento entities. We don't make any MySQL join to the Magento tables, and that's why we don't consider that we can make a reference to the product ID. That's why all the references we have based on the product SKU. But what it actually means that if the product SKU is updated in Magento, the inventory data would be affected in this case. So if you feel that you have something to say about that, if you consider that, for example, data consistency for your merchant could be affected with this behavior, just let us know, and we can discuss that. We can consider, maybe we'll consider some additional possibilities for guaranteeing consistency on the application level. But this is pretty sophisticated, pretty tough thread and topic. So don't hesitate to let us know what you think about that. So, okay, that was all what I wanted to say regarding this topic. Let me check one more time whether Josh is on the call. So Josh, did you already join our call? Okay, so let's keep for Josh this time again, and let's proceed to, so now we have Paul. According to the agenda, we have Paul, and Paul, like.
Hi there. Hello. So I had a question from Igor last week, if I could please do a presentation about the source reservation module. Because some people were interested in it. I'll share my screen and go from there. Give me a second. Yeah, so I placed a comment in the MSI channel to actually describe what I'm building, what we're building. I created a PDF that should describe everything I'm about to share. So if something isn't completely clear, I will share it, or you can read it here. The functionality that we've built is source reservations. We all know that the MSI module offers stock reservations, and that allows you to actually have a difference between the sum of the quantities per source and the actual saleable quantity that's available on the front end. This is handy when you place an order, that if in this, for example, in this situation, when 10 products are ordered, the saleable quantity will be 0 and no additional products can be ordered. I'm gonna start with that piece, and I'm gonna come to the problem in a second. So I'm placing an order right now. I'm placing, I believe I have a quantity of 1 in my cart. And I've just placed an order in the system. And we can see that the actual saleable quantity is deducted by 1. And this is how the MSI module works. And then you can actually see that in the order, well, it's the 1 quantity. So the problem we were running into is that in this specific situation I have right here, it's pretty easy to actually build a warehouse connector. And that was the main problem we were facing. I have a stock that's called One Day Only, that's the name of the website, and I have a warehouse that's called SNH. And I need to know from which warehouse to actually send an API call to actually place a fulfillment request at the warehouse. So I need to know which warehouse is available. In this specific case, there's only 1 source available, so that isn't a very complex answer. But if there are multiple sources available, and I can add one right now, assign source. So I can add another source. Now that has 5 available. The actual saleable quantity will be, of course, 14, because I've added, there are already 10 at one warehouse available, 5 at the other, and that makes a total of 14. Which should work, yeah, right. So normally when you are ready to ship an order, you see the result of the source selection algorithm. And the result of the source selection algorithm is something that we want to use. So we want to know, we want to know this value. we want to know from which source we should actually deduct the product from. And we want to know it before we're actually shipping, because in Magento, the shipment is usually used as a confirmation that the product is actually shipped, and the order will be on processing the whole time until it's actually shipped. I'm gonna make the order processing because we have, when it's pending, we don't actually know that we don't care from which source it is coming from when the order is actually paid and is allowed to be shipped. Then we're actually going to start to care when from which warehouse it will be shipped. So I'm going to switch to my database for a second and show you how the reservations are looking right now. At the moment, we have the normal reservation table that actually does a -1 reservation on this order. Our new source reservation table doesn't have any new information in it, because we were talking about order 4, and it doesn't have a line for order 4 yet. How the system works is that we have a runner available that is doing a cron job that actually moves the assignee from the stock to the source. So I believe it's that one. Yeah. Move reservations from stock to source. So that is 57. And it is actually executed. So what it actually does, for each order that hasn't been assigned to a source that is processing, the source selection algorithm that is default will be run, and it will actually create a reservation on a certain source. As you saw before, the actual priority is Rokin and then SNH. So it has created a reservation on Rokin. The result of this page will always give back the results that are already present in this table, and this way you have a source assignment before the actual order is shipped. This means we have fixed the source assignment, and therefore we can also create our API communication to our warehouse. If there are any questions, by the way, please interrupt me and ask. So in this specific example, the source has been assigned. The order was already placed, so there were already 14 available, but now the source has been assigned, and you can see that there are still 5 available in the Rokin warehouse, but there's 1 reserved. The actual inventory of the product still is 5, and if the warehouse does an update from the warehouse and updates it to 6, we should see that the actual saleable quantity has up 1, but there's still 1 reservation available. So that's 15, but now it's 6 minus 1 that is available for the source. When the order is actually shipped, of course, I think you can imagine what's actually happening, or what will be happening. So I'm now creating a normal shipment, and the values here are actually the values from the actual table. So if the source the source selection algorithm here doesn't really do anything anymore, because it will always return the normal values that are available here. All right, I'm creating the shipment right now. So the shipment has been created. It has ordered, invoiced, and shipped. The thing I should be seeing right now is that the saleable quantity is still the same on the web shop. Only it currently it is actually deducted the actual source quantity. All right, source reservation. It has now actually cancelled the source reservation, and it has actually deducted the actual source quantity. So it's still the 15, and I just updated it from 5 to 6, and now it's back to 5 because it actually has implemented the reservations. The way it makes it interesting is that at the moment, the actual functionality that it actually does it actually moves the reservation from the stock to the source is a single method, and you can just create a plugin on this method to actually hook into it to actually create a warehouse integration, and that gives you all the data that you need. It gives you a source reservation result that actually gives you all the information. It gives you the actual reservation item, etc.
So just to be clear, hi everybody.
Hi.
So this function, it's this function which create the source reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because earlier I just saw you launch a cron, and
yeah. So this method will actually execute the actual movement of the source reservation, and this will actually.
I mean, this will be done in real time, or
yeah. No, so we're doing it async. There's a specific reason to do it async. So, for example, when you have a warehouse that wants to have the orders before a certain time in the evening, then you want to do it once a day, for example, or you want to do it multiple times a day. But the case that we were running into, that the date the order is placed in doesn't always determine the actual priority that the sources should be assigned. So we have certain for example, certain consumers that actually have higher priority than certain business orders, or the other way around. So the way it works, it has a source, it has a move reservation from stock to source runner, and it actually fetches all the orders that haven't been assigned yet and will be and will be assigned to actually to a certain to the source. The order selection service, yeah, the order selection service actually is part of the inventory order source reservation priority functionality, and this method allows you to give back a list of orders in a certain sort order. This means that you're able to sort specific orders, etc. At a specific moment. This allows you to actually create a priority. For example, if the cutoff time for country A is 5 o'clock and the other is 8 o'clock, then they can actually give back a certain sorting order from this method. So that was the reason that we wanted to do it async, and then that we wanted to do it by cron, and we didn't want to do it directly when the order is actually placed. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But can we bypass your current system? For example, if I bought your plugin when it's done, will there be a way to not, for example, use your order priority selection?
For example, yes. So this the current one is a specific the actual method that is called here. It's an API, and it should be able to, you should be able to call it from the REST API, or maybe there should be a setting to actually do it synchronously. The idea to do it asynchronously is that the source selection algorithm, the idea behind the source selection algorithm is that it can be heavy, and it is allowed to actually run for a few hundred milliseconds. If you do it in sync with placing the order or creating an invoice, that adds to the actual order processing of the system. So
I don't get why it will be that heavy, because on the normal MSI, I believe they just add a new reservation. The architecture is set up in a way that it doesn't take that much time, because
but it's the
new reservation, and after, when you're shipping the product, then they apply the source selection, and so maybe there could be. I thought you used the same architectural pattern, so I don't know. Maybe you can do something like that.
Yeah. So I think currently it's doing it is calling the runner method, and actually it's calling this method. It's calling this method, and actually moving this method to after invoice save or something. It should be easy to actually implement. It should be doable.
I believe that what's it's making it slow. It's your because I see order. Yeah, maybe it's the order. I don't know. All right. Yeah, it seems.
So no, the idea was that the one of the core ideas, I believe, of the MSI functionality is that we defer all complexity to as late as possible to actually be able to select all the warehouses where the product should come from, and that is all in the source selection algorithm, and that is handled at the time that is convenient for the admin user or at another moment, but it shouldn't be added to the actual placing of the order, because that would create scalability issues in the checkout. So that was the idea behind it, but actually moving it to sync shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, I see.
So that's a functionality we have built right now. There's we have to do give a quick recap of how we've built it. We've created two modules. The order source reservations actually handles all the interaction with all the orders, and that actually make sure that everything is working for the credit memos, for all the returns, etc. And the other module is actually core of the source reservations itself. We are currently working on actual building transfer orders. That's the other way around, when the inventory is incoming in the future, and we're building on top of the other functionality. So that's the functionality we currently have. I don't have any admin UI to show you yet for the transfer orders, but it is all the tests have been written, and everything should be working. That was my part. If there are any further questions, let me know.
Probably I have a question.
Yeah.
So, do I understand correctly that, because, for example, in Magento, in like a MSI out of the box, the result of the source selection algorithm is just a suggestion, and merchant can update it with own value, so he can neglect completely what was proposed by the algorithm. But as I understand this, so the migration from the scope reservation to source reservation is done automatically. So you just choose the default source selection algorithm, run it, and apply this reservation. So my question is whether it's possible to affect this reservation and change it manually, for example, by merchant.
I believe it is. I believe it will actually.
Maybe.
I believe it will actually cancel the reservation that it has on the order item and actually do what you. I think the use case wasn't for us to actually be able to do for the admin user actually influence it, because in practice we don't often use that. I'm not completely sure if it's currently possible or if it will break. So I'm not sure.
Okay, got it.
All right, if there aren't any further questions, I'll stop my share.
Okay, thank you, Paul. That was really interesting how you implemented that.
All right, bye-bye.
And in any case, just to make more people aware, you can drop your PDF if it's, of course, if it's open to the MSI Slack channel, just to let people read.
Yeah, so I've already shared the PDF in the MSI documentation, and that should be so you can read it there. We're currently working on our English website, and then it should be Googleable as well, and then maybe people are able to find it. All right, thanks.
Thank you. So, okay. So Josh just dropped me a message that he's unable to join meeting. So I don't have my Magento set up on his pull request, but at least I will briefly describe what he did. And the initial root cause of this issue appeared from the MSI Slack channel. That's why I really encourage you guys, if you have any problems or issues or just ideas regarding the MSI, just drop a line into the MSI Slack channel. We're reading it, we are processing your messages, and we making that happen. So we transform your ideas into the software. And actually, the idea was the guy whose name is Chirag was making, I believe he's was introducing some new source selection algorithm. And so he introduced one more algorithm, and the idea that this new algorithm was introduce some filtering on the sources available for the order fulfillment. Thus, introducing this algorithm, actually, the source availability is decreased. So currently, like for example, for the out of the box priority-based algorithm, there were two sources, and as soon as he applied own algorithm, there was a filtering for sources. For example, maybe some particular source can just fulfill a particular type of clients. Maybe there are just there are stores oriented just for males and for women. That's why he made this filtration, and that's in this case, it was just one source which can fulfill the order. And in this case, it was some user like usability lock in this case, because there is no any sense to show the drop down with the one item only. And this guy is requested us to introduce this pre-selecting of source. So this is actually what Josh did. Josh introduced own UI component, and he provided own implementation of the select. And if there is one and only one item available in the select, this item is pre-selected here. And I asked today, I asked Chirag to check whether this fix works for him or not, because this pull request is merged and gonna be delivered in the scope of the new MSI 1.1.0 package. Unfortunately, Josh was unable to join us today and make the presentation by himself, but in any case, it was a pretty useful fix, which made at least one merchant more happy. So let's proceed further in our agenda, and the next one gonna be Tom, who will make an update regarding the test coverage and the quality of MSI.
Great, thank you, Igor. Just let me get my screen shared here. Okay, hopefully you're seeing that there. Okay, so just a brief presentation, just should be doing weekly, just running through quality and testing updates. So where we are this week is, as usual, with our test definitions and manual, we have increased that number 591. It's roughly a 20 or 25 tests per week increase we're getting, which is great. A lot more coverage, a lot more definitions that we'll both use for manual testing in the scope of the 1.1.0 release, and as a basis for automation, so we can cover the S0s going forward and have those automated out. Manual testing results, these are from way back in December, but we're hoping to then get a new set of these that we can baseline against and have a good comparison point. So once we run a full manual test cycle, we'll have a good comparison against this last result, and we'll see how we're looking from there. Automated testing then, so a couple of headlines in this. Severity hasn't changed significantly. Component hasn't changed significantly. These are just flowing from the manual test definitions, but where we do have a little movement is here. So we've managed to unskip 6 tests. So often with automated test suites, something gets skipped and it doesn't get unskipped for quite a while. We've done a significant amount of work on some of our tests to unskip them and make sure that functionality is covered. It's important both in terms of keeping the test base clean and also where tests are skipped, they're skipped for a reason, and that means that coverage is more problematic to automate. So actually fixing 6 skipped tests is very valuable. It also taught us a lot about how we're going to integrate with B2B. One of the main problems was with merge files and UI changes around CEE and B2B. So it's taught us a little more about that. So we'll be able to increase our coverage in those areas as well. So that's a great result for us as well. And we've managed, in terms of creation trends, we've managed to merge PRs across, unskip those, which unfortunately doesn't change the automated number. The automated number is fully automated scenarios, including skips. So that number should go up, but it doesn't on this chart. And our PRs to mainline pending have been approved. We've got 4 of them in PR 1975 that should be going through immediately. So we're going to tick that number up as well. Also, we've discovered that with smaller UI changes in MSI, there are internal test failures that we're seeing in builds. So 20 test cases were failing internally as of Wednesday and Thursday. Those are all now fixed with updates and a merged PR, so we're back to green builds. And lesson learned from that, which we'll see in this, is we'll be running more periodic full builds, or I will, particularly to ensure that the test code base stays clean. We're staying on green builds, and we'll see probably some more PRs or smaller changes just to keep that test base and the selectors and all of our flows running with each PR. So generally good news, some good progress made. I'm also working with Josh, who wasn't able to make it to the call today. I prefer that because hopefully by next Friday, I'm working with him to actually implement MFTF test coverage for his PR, so that when he presents next week, we'll also be able to show what a small MFTF PR with that functionality looks like and how those go hand in hand and how I've worked with him. There'll be some lesson learned on how he got up to speed on that and what issues he ran into and how we worked through them. And that'll also allow me to engage with some new PRs if someone wants to contribute MFTF with their contributions as well. I'll be able to use the lesson learned there so we can get everyone up to speed quicker and make it a fairly friction-free process. So that is all from me. Happy to take questions about quality. Otherwise, that's us for the week.
So it looks like there are no questions, Tom.
Thank you
for your update, and thank you for making our MFTF and keeping our MFTF test green. This is really important for us, especially before the release. So the last but not least presenter gonna be Lori, who will keep you updated on the MSI documentation.
Hey folks, go ahead and share if you want to stop sharing, Tom. Hey Tom, could you stop sharing? Oh well. So we do have some updates on the source selection algorithm and the new release that's coming up to provide some new documentation. And I've got a preview. One sec. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, there we go. So this is a quick preview of what's coming. We have some documentation in place now for DevDocs. As soon as we have the package ready to go for MSI, hopefully next week, we will also be adding this content to DevDocs. It has to lag behind a little bit, until we actually go live. But if interested, you can look at this wonderful information here that Kevin has finished for us. He has added not only the general information of the distance priority algorithm and what's called and how it works, but he's also updated the managed source selection algorithms topic in DevDocs and in the tutorials to also include how to use the distance algorithm, how to use the priority algorithm, and that should give you some insights on how you can also go further with customizing it, extending it, and all of that good information. So as soon as we have our packages ready to go, we will also update and make live all of the documentation. And we'll be posting that in the Slack channel and, of course, tweets and everything else. Also, if you haven't looked at it yet, here is the wonderful blog post we were talking about last week that Igor wrote, and all of the architects really loved here in Magento, and it looks like a lot of people have also started to enjoy it. Goes into the depths of the best practices for working with our APIs and designing, and it does highlight some MSI. Definitely, if you have not read it yet, you should. I'll go ahead and post another link to this as well in Slack. That's all I have at the moment, but if you have any questions, happy to give some more information. I also had a request to update one of the diagrams. That's going to get updated right after this meeting.
So probably the diagram you're talking about, the request for update for the diagram you're talking about came from Alex Lunkov.
Yep, I'm going to get that updated right after this meeting. I already started editing it, but...
Yeah, that's a good catch Alex made.
Yes, and as soon as I get that updated, I'll also ping that in the Slack channel so everybody has it. Because I know a lot of folks use our diagrams, and you're welcome to. With that in mind, if you do see a screenshot you'd like an edit to or a different kind of diagram, we do have quite a few that are in progress to better describe reservations. And with a lot of the changes coming through, I'm happy to work with anyone that needs some help on that. So just feel free to contact me in Slack.
Okay, sure. You can just also drop a message that in a MSI Slack channel that you are looking for volunteers who will help you to work with diagrams.
Sure thing.
So guys, looks like that's all for today. Today's demo appeared to be pretty long one, but I hope that taking into account that most of people left till the end of the demo, I hope that was not so boring. And thank you guys for your time, for your patience, for your contribution, and see you in a week on the same demo. I hope that it would be in my Zoom, my room, where I have a permission. But in any case, thank you very much, Slava, who shared his own Zoom room, and now this meeting is recorded. So thank you, Slava. Thank you, guys, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.